own fault too. So immediately they pick your ride, they click arrive. And normally, the app owners have given 5 minutes of grace. The moment you get to a place, after 5 minutes, the person doesn't come out. It will start charging the person a certain amount of money. So, but by the time you click arrive, when getting to the location will take you 9 minutes, and you have clicked arrive. So 4 minutes into his own time, you have started charging him, and you have not even at the location yet. Now, that is actually not good, which I hardly do. The only time I do it is when I'm booked in an estate, and I get to the gate, and they say, call the person to come out. Immediately before I call the person, I click arrive, because that's the estate. So having to navigate my way through that is own cup of tea. When I click arrive, then the person has 5 minutes before he will start being charged by the app. So after 5 minutes that I've clicked arrive, the person will start being charged. Then once the person gets in and will click start, then I'll ask the person, can we move? He say yes. Then I'll click starting up of the trip. So once I click on that, the trip starts. Then we continue moving.
Hello and welcome to the news brief. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. The Nigerian army has foiled a terrorist attack on a village in Kaduna State, killing 2 of the terrorists. According to a statement from the Department of Army Public Relations, troops deployed for counter-terrorism operations intercepted 4 armed terrorists on motorbikes at a known crossing point in Kurmi Aja, Kagaro local government area just moments before their planned strike. In a well-executed ambush, the troops engaged the terrorists in an intense firefighting, neutralizing 2 of them. The remaining terrorists fled into a nearby forest with gunshot wounds. Following the operation, a search of the area led to the recovery of 2 AK-47 rifles, 30 rounds of ammunition, 3 magazines, and 2 motorbikes belonging to the terrorists. The Army has advised residents to remain vigilant, continue their lawful activities, and promptly report any suspicious behavior to security agencies. The Nigerian Customs Service has seized a cache of arms, drones, and military equipment worth 1.5 billion naira that was exported from Turkey to Lagos State. Comptroller General of Customs Adewale Adeniyi disclosed this during a press conference in Lagos on Wednesday. Adeniyi explained that the Murtala Mohammed Area Command of the Customs Service has acted on intelligence from local and international sources. On June 19, the command deployed personnel to monitor all exit points around the airport. The seized items include 148 drones, 172 ballistic vests, 15 ballistic plates, 1 ballistic helmet, 8 walkie-talkies, 9,172 military and paramilitary badges, 20 camouflage uniforms, 100 camouflage vests, 172 camouflage caps, and 120 binoculars.
It was established that 4 packages inside this consignment were used to conceal 55 pieces of unassembled Joseph Magnum Tomahawk semi-automatic shotgun. These rifles were concealed using shower faucets. The duty-paid value of these illicit arms is 270,888,109 naira 29 kobo only. All of those items associated with the shotgun would be handed over to the coordinator or his representative of the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, operating under the Office of the National Security Advisor for diligent investigation and prosecution.
The Nigerian Senate on Wednesday urged the federal government to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency and to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, namely the Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest and Mandara Mountains, respectively. They further urged the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the attacks. This is sequel to the point of urgent national importance raised by the senator representing Borno South APC and Senate Whip, Senator Aline Dume, on the suicide attacks in Goza in Borno State on Saturday, 29th of June 2024, claiming the lives of 32 people and leaving other victims injured. Dume notes that these attacks have raised significant concerns about the security situation in the region, which has been a flashpoint of terrorist attacks over the years. And this calls for concerted and coordinated efforts of the security agencies to address the state of insecurity in Borno State and other parts of the country experiencing similar situations.
Further notes that these attacks have raised significant concern about the security situation in the region, which has been a flashpoint of terrorist attacks over the years. And this calls for concerted and coordinated efforts of the security agencies to address the state of insecurity in Borno State and other parts of the country experiencing similar situations.
In support of the motion, Senator Ahmed Lawan, Yobe North, Tahir Munguno, Borno North, Jimo Ibrahim stressed the need for government to prioritize its investment and what they invest in.
Insecurity is gradually becoming the only way to understand security. And we cannot allow this trend to continue because of the danger that is portrayed. I don't want to take much of your time, but I will say clearly, it costs nothing for the intelligent army to get devices in their phone to know where these notorious criminals live. You can use technology, just like distinguished Senator Dume have said, to deploy to these soldiers rather using hands.
In response, the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, noted how painful the attack is, but stressed that the security agencies are trying. He assured that the federal government is doing great to produce solutions that will help to save the people.
The actions that took place are very condemnable, but then something that you brought up, which was important, is that it is not that the security agencies did not react, that one of them even paid the supreme sacrifice, and then also they were able to apprehend the last suicide bomber, who is now providing insights into the plans that they have, and then insisting that she should be allowed to go and detonate the bomb for her to go to heaven.
Senate therefore observed a minute's silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their precious lives from the unfortunate events. The House of Representatives has condemned the multiple suicide bombings that occurred in Goza, Borno State, and urged security agencies to intensify their efforts in intelligence gathering and community engagement. Their condemnation followed the adoption of an urgent motion moved by the member representing Damboa, Goza, Chibok Federal Constituency, Honorable Ahmed Jaha, at plenary. Presenting the motion, the lawmaker informed the recent bomb blast that occurred on Saturday targeted a wedding, a funeral, and a hospital in coordinated attacks in Goza, Borno State. Honorable Jaha also noted that a heinous act of terror has resulted in the loss of not less than 30 innocent lives and caused immeasurable grief and suffering to the affected community, with many battling for their lives at various hospitals.
The 30 young men who lost their lives ranges between the ages of 35 downward, including teenagers and infants. The suicide bombers, after identifying their faces, it was discovered that they were recruited, they were drugged, they were brainwashed, and they were imported to come to Goza from somewhere to cause this issue. They came in uniform, what is normally called in the northern part of Nigeria ANCO.
We can call on the president to sack all security political appointees All political is 10 months. All of them have been in office for 10 months. Even if you are given a job, you have a probation of 10 months. If you're not living up to expectation, you don't get your confinement after 1 year.
These young people that are unemployed can find solace and hope in being in one state, in a state police, a local government police arrangement.
The issue of state police, sir, I will tell you for free, I will not go for it. You know what the governors are doing, how they are cajoling, how they are manipulating the states. They are complaining they cannot pay 60,000 naira now for minimum wage. You want to go and add another branch of problem to them, and at the end of the day, you will arm them, and then they will have more sophisticated armed robbers in the country.
The heavy rainfall early Wednesday morning flooded many parts of Lagos, making it difficult for commuters to reach their destinations. Lagosians had barely woken up when the torrential downpour began, disrupting daily activities and flooding the roads. Workers in the commercial capital struggled to get to their workplaces, with many stranded at bus stops as they tried to commute through the city. Motorists spent hours navigating the congestion, particularly on the route from Alakpere to the Third Mainland Bridge, which was also heavily flooded in the Yanoworo-Olokpomeji area. A fallen tree around the airport U-turn in Oshodi further impeded traffic flow until personnel from the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency cleared the obstruction, restoring movement and mitigating potential hazards. Meanwhile, the heavy rainfall that hit Lagos earlier had left many residents stranded and struggling to reach their destinations across the city. The situation was particularly chaotic in the Victoria Island area, where residents desperately appealed to the government to address the long-standing problem of clogged drainage system. Residents who spoke with Plus TV News expressed their profound frustration with the disruption and lack of infrastructure to handle such heavy downpour.
The rain is its time, so everybody will know that any time from June, July is rain season. That's why government always aware people that you should clean their environment and to avoid all those floods and other things. So that you can see every year it's flooded. And even this morning when our driver came to he said that many people are on the way. They can't find a way to come to their working places and other ones. So you can see everybody know aware that this time of rain, so it's time for rain season. So the environment we can have for government is to make the people clean the drainage. So you should not put other refuse under the drainage challenge so that it will not affect the water to flow very well. So
well, the flood has been so massive, caused traffic, flooded environments, people can't move, everyone is stuck, and it's not been so nice. But I would say that the flood has just been a limiting factor in the daily lifestyle of people living around here. I would advise the government to work more on clearing the drainages and sensitization on people instead of dropping dirty stuff inside the drainages that make
whereas wherever they are going. And also people should be careful because everywhere is flooded and everywhere is blocked. So whatever car you might be carrying, your car might be stuck there and you won't know what to do. So people should just be safe and also take due diligence on whatever you be doing.
So I won't use drug, I don't feel buy. I get food, I won't go buy, I don't feel buy the food. See, there's water there everywhere, and that's the fold up my trouser. You know good now. I'll pay person go waka. Before you know it, go up, person go waka, you go waka into gutter, you go drop inside gutter. Can't even walk on the street again. There's water everywhere. The flood is too much. There's no adequate drainage system.
The Minister of Works, David Umahi, has ordered the silting of drainages along federal roads in Lagos State to address flooding on the highways. This directive came after heavy rains on Wednesday caused widespread disruption, with a two-story building collapsing in Mushin and vehicular movement being grounded across the state. The Federal Controller of Works in Lagos, Olukorede Kesha, disclosed that the minister's order came in a statement. While Kesha acknowledged localized flooding on certain federal roads, she stated that Lagos was not experiencing widespread submergence from flood waters. Our correspondent observed extensive flooding in areas such as Yanoworo, Agege, Isheri, Oshun, Bagada, and Lagos Island, with roads and houses submerged after the prolonged downpour. Other affected locations include Eredo, Bojije, Ekpe, Shongotedo, Ibejuleki, Awoyaya, Labora, and Abijo. The directive to desilt the drainage along Federal Road aims to alleviate the flooding that has disrupted business, commons, and school attendance across Lagos and Ogun states. Senators from the southeast have pleaded with President Bola Tinubu to order the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. Led by Senator Eyinnaya Abaribe, the lawmakers claimed that the region's social and economic activities will remain stagnant unless Kanu is freed. The senators held a closed-door meeting with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, where they delivered a letter to President Tinubu requesting Kanu's release. Addressing journalists afterwards, Abaribe, speaking on behalf of his colleagues, lamented that the economy and social life in the region had suffered greatly due to Kanu's continued incarceration.
This matter cannot be resolved legally, and if we continue with the legal wrangling, that it will continue to cause the insecurities, because the legitimate demands has been hijacked by criminals, undesirables, and all manners of elements who have used it to perpetrate their own nefarious deals on the rest of the people of the Southeast. Nobody in the Southeast likes what is going on. People cannot go out of their houses on Mondays. People are maimed and killed and all that. And some people are roaming around, killing even security men in the name of looking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And Nnamdi Kanu himself also confirmed to me last Monday that he never made any request of that nature that anybody should go and kill people. In fact, he was very pained that the Southeast is suffering because of this.
Governor Ahmadu Fintiri of Adamawa State has declared that he is in full support of local government autonomy being agitated by many Nigerians. The governor spoke in Yola while declaring open a 3-day training program of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria on Tuesday. Governor Fintiri equally called on the federal government to also contemplate granting autonomy to the states, noting that all revenue accruing to states has been deducted arbitrarily by the federal government. He also called for the separation of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation from that of the states for proper accountability and probity.
I want to say here loud and clear that I am supporting the local government autonomy. But the process should be through constitutional amendment. The same way, I'm also calling on the federal government to give the states its own financial autonomy. In the last 12 months, this government removed subsidy on oil. A lot has come into the coffers of the federal government, of the Federation, as revenue. But in most cases and in all times, only half of such revenue is being shared to the states and local government. Contrary to the provision of the Constitution that says all revenues that accrue to the Federation account shall be shared. So with this, I want Labour to understand, when governors are saying we will not be able to pay minimum wage, you know our direction and you know what we are saying.
Civil society organizations and the organized labor groups in Nigeria have reiterated their demand for autonomous, functional and effective local government administration in the country. The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC, Nigeria Union of Local Government Employees NULGE, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria ALGON and Nigeria Union of Teachers NUT unanimously expressed their commitment to sustain the agitation for local government autonomy. Leaders of the civil society organizations and labor movements in Nigeria met at the one-day reflection and planning session in Abuja on local government reforms organized by the Partnership to Engage, Reform and Learn, PEARL, a UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office FCDO. During the session, stakeholders engaged in robust discussions, analyzed key issues and strategized to leverage on the ongoing 10th National Assembly Constitution Amendment process to achieve local government autonomy. The team leader of the Partnership to Engage Reform and Learn, PEARL, Engage Citizens, Dr. John Mutu, charged the stakeholders to intensify efforts to actualize the objective.
The local government system is the bedrock on which the edifice of our democracy rests. With a weak local government or non-functional local government, our democracy is endangered. And we hope that, God forbid, a situation will not lead to the collapse of the democratic system. So giving local government autonomy through a constitutional alteration or amendment will certainly help in getting the local governments strong by giving them powers to recruit qualified staff, by giving them powers to use resources for the normal functions of the local government, and by giving them the power to administer the security challenges.
The issue of local government autonomy or functionality, if you like, truly is something that is hampered by the laws and the Constitution, which is why the legislators are out there trying to amend the Constitution to give the autonomy. As it is today, under our laws and under the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, the State House of Assembly are given the powers to legislate for local government, not the local government legislating for itself. They legislate as to tenure, they legislate as to how elections are held and all of that. While in terms of financial, monies are sent to the joint accounts where state governments have control.
Well, achieving local government autonomy will bring peace and stability, political peace and stability to Nigeria, because Nigeria is a nation that consists of multi-ethnic micro societies, and everyone cannot be elected president or governors. So the involvement, the political inclusiveness of different ethnic groups will further promote political unity and engender peace in Nigeria. That's number one. Number two, every security challenges are local and the solution to it remain local.
If they have autonomy, especially financial autonomy, they should be able, to key in to the law, because minimum wage is a minimum wage law. Violation of it is a violation of law. So local governments will be seen to be obeying the law and acting appropriately, by making sure that they pay an approved minimum wage.
We'll now take a short commercial break and be back for the rest of the news. Stay with us.
My name is Adejokela Sisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet 3R. As Planet 3R, we convert textile and plastic waste into eco-friendly products. The motivation actually came from a rural community in Ibadan here. Whenever it rains, the whole place, people will not be able to go inside the community. If it rains overnight, people will not be able to go to school, they will not be able to go to work. Anytime the water now goes away, you now realize a lot of waste. And I was like, this is actually the root cause of this problem, improper waste management system. Then I look at it that, what can we do to solve this problem? And that was how I started using the weaving skill that I've acquired from my mom since I was 9 years old. Then I started using it to weave those waste to now make sure that we now convert them into beautiful items like bags, shoes, even clothing. I actually participated at Womenpreneur Season 3, that was 2021. One of the things I really gained at that time was business development. It's not just about the talent now or having to know how to convert the waste or having the idea, but to be able to put it into a successful business. I really appreciate what Access Bank is doing for entrepreneurs. Let us now say women now, because most of the time women don't really have much of these advantages. I love the fact that there's an initiative for women. I want to encourage you to make sure that you go and apply honestly. Your life will not remain the same again.
Glad to know you're still there. A deadly attack blamed on jihadists in central Mali has killed over 20 civilians, according to two local officials, the latest in a series of killings that have ravaged the troubled Sahel region for over a decade. The attack occurred in the village of Jibombo, several dozen kilometers from the town of Bandigara. A provincial authority official reported that at least 21 civilians have been killed, attributing the assaults to jihadists. Another official and a local youth representative estimated the death toll at around 20, though they spoke anonymously due to security concerns or their positions. Since the 2020 military junta takeover, details on such incidents are typically not made public. An unknown number of people also remain missing after the attacks, which began before nightfall and lasting around 3 hours, the youth representative stated. Mali official, the Republic of Mali is a landlocked officially the Republic of Mali is a landlocked West African country and the 8th largest in Africa. Outside Africa, despite his poor debate performance against Donald Trump, White House spokesman Karine Jean-Pierre says Joe Biden is not withdrawing from the presidential race. However, panic has spread among the Democrats following the televised debate, with internal discussions about finding a replacement candidate before the November election, fueled by polls showing Trump widening his lead. Reports from the New York Times and CNN suggest that the 81-year-old Biden had confided to a key ally that his re-election bid was at risk if he didn't quickly reassure the public of his capability. But Jean-Pierre dismissed these reports, affirming that Biden has no plans to withdraw. As the war in Gaza rages on and threatens to spread to Lebanon, Iraqi militant groups have warned that they are ready to join the fight against Israel and the United States. A field commander of the so-called Islamic resistance in Iraq stated that there would be an escalation if a full-scale war erupts in Lebanon. Speaking anonymously, the commander revealed that the Iran-backed group has already deployed experts and advisors to Lebanon. Iraqi political scientist Ali al-Baida agreed that a major war between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah would not be limited to Lebanese territory. The bloodiest ever Gaza war began when Palestinian militant group Hamas attacked southern Israel on October 7. In business news, the federal government on Tuesday said it is ready to join forces with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, to come up with an actionable roadmap and policy framework that would revamp the nation's manufacturing sector. The Vice President, Kashim Shettima, gave the assurance, saying if presented, the roadmap and policy framework would be speedily implemented to effect the needed changes that will revamp the sector. The VP, who disclosed this while declaring open a 3-day National Manufacturing Policy Summit at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa, Abuja, regretted that a sector which has a crucial role to play in building a nation driven by production and abundance had endured a series of setbacks over the past decades.
All hands are on deck to bring down the current cost of doing business and provide incentives for manufacturing development. I am aware of the significant tax-related burden on the sector, which has regularly been highlighted among the major concerns by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. The issue is being addressed to enhance manufacturing development. The Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform is specifically addressing this matter, and we have entered the implementation stage of the reform.
And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Thank you for being there.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bukky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but
I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Aliko Dangote, the president of Dangote Industries Limited, has criticized the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN's 30% interest rate, warning that such industry policy could stifle business growth and job creation in the country. Now, the business magnate also proposed solutions to sustain existing local and foreign investment, as well as attract new investors to Nigeria. Dangote shared these views in a keynote speech delivered at the opening of a 3-day Nigerian Manufacturers Summit, themed Rethinking Manufacturing in Nigeria. The African richest man stated that to prevent investors from leaving the country and attract new ones, the federal government must initiate deliberate industrial policies that assure investors of support and protection. He explained that such policies would serve as the greatest incentives for all existing investors and manufacturers, both local and foreign. Dangote also noted that foreign investors and manufacturers would be attracted only when they see that local investors are also thriving. According to him, what attracts foreign investment is not when the president or other government agencies go outside the country to seek it, but rather when favorable conditions exist for both local and international businesses to succeed. Well, stay with us on Business Insight as we analyze these issues. I am Justin Akadonye, your host. All right, just before we get into the conversation of the day, to build lasting legacies, family businesses must focus on 3 key elements: a clear vision, a defined purpose, and the right talent. This insight was shared by Dr. Ibukwan Woshika, the CEO of the Chair Center Group, during the inaugural Family Business Conference hosted by the Lagos Business School. Details now.
Is it to provide for our family? Is it to keep our family name in the public eye as having done something?
Most family-owned businesses in Nigeria fail to survive to the second generation, and even more fail to survive to the third. The problems with sustainability pose issues for individuals and communities. In family and boardroom discussions, succession is often the elephant in the room. Concerned about the protection of family businesses and the jobs they support, the Lagos Business School puts this conference together to feature discussions by family business leaders on the impact of family dynamics, governance, succession on survival, and the sustainability of family-owned businesses.
Now, this side of the family businesses, as important as it is, The fact that the alarming high rate of failure of these businesses is actually a cause for concern. I mean, it's been written by practically everybody that less than 30% survive from first to second generation. We must leave it within the organization.
Dr. Ibukun Awoshika is the CEO of the Chair Center. She takes to the stage to speak on the topic, building a legacy beyond today's profit, charting the course from family enterprise to family institution. She sums it all up by telling family business owners to know why they started their businesses in the first place, when and how to bring in the right talents, as well as the value of values.
And it might be the youngest one that is best suited for facing the market. But in a family structure, that can be a challenge. And the politics and dynamics of family always comes in. But in building an institution, that should not be. What is important is what is the right talent for the business. And is that right talent the youngest or the most senior? Or the cousin rather than the son? Because now, if the son or the third child becomes the MD, is it his own son that will take over?
The session is interactive, and this panel brings a representation of founders and second generation of family businesses together. They share and compare notes on navigating succession dynamics in African family businesses.
Environment, external environment is very harsh. Family businesses will go and take their reserve to support the business to weather the storm, thereby protecting jobs, protecting livelihood, and in turn protecting their legacies.
On the family governance side, I mean, it's something that we're still working on. Like you said, I mean, it doesn't, even if it's not set up, because everything is a work in progress. You try.
I say no, I can't see these guys coming to do this, to fight with these my drivers. Let me better look for something that I can hand over to them.
A well-executed succession plan provides an opportunity for the next generation to learn and develop the necessary skills and knowledge required to lead the family business. Speakers also share on family governance and other key areas.
So if you look back at all the businesses Nigerians have ever started, right back from Ojukwu Transports, Udusola Tires, Concord, Arik, tell me which one is still surviving. And they were all successful businesses at that time. But as soon as the founders died, the businesses died.
The founders' joy is to see the business move through the bloodline. But in the instances where that cannot happen, you do the same thing you do when you're going to do anything that carries risk. You know, you mitigate the risk. I think the starting point is clearly articulating what the vision is and what the expectations are.
When there's intentionality and a legacy mindset, you know, you have a founder that decides that, look, I want this to live beyond me. It's not about being a superhero. It's not about me. It's about, you know, something beyond me. When you can have that level of clarity, you're fine. And when you don't have that, you do have challenges because there's no planning for life after the founder, basically.
Succession planning often involves emotional decision-making, as it requires family members to navigate complex dynamics and relationships. However, a merit-based approach to leadership selection ensures that the most qualified and capable individuals assume such roles. Justin Akadonye, Plus TV News, Lagos. Welcome back from that report. Recognizing the challenges of unemployment, poverty and insecurity, Aliko Dangote has advocated supporting existing businesses, particularly manufacturers, to bolster Nigeria's potential for a globally competitive manufacturing sector. However, he stressed the need to re-evaluate the country's industrialization policy. Moreover, Dangote urged Nigeria to implement protective policies that foster the growth of domestic industries into thriving entities capable of generating much-needed jobs and prosperity. I'm now being joined by Mustafa Iwila, estate surveyor and public affairs analyst in this particular discourse. Good morning to you, Mustafa. Thanks for staying with us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let me start with something Dangote said in his keynote speech during the event at the Manufacturers Summit in Abuja. He said something about if you import, let me just paraphrase. If you are so import dependent, that means you are importing poverty, and you're actually importing job losses at the same time, because Nigerians will not really have value to even get the work done here or get more job opportunities. But that's just like a summary of what he just said concerning the issues now. He talked about the interest rate, about 30%, and how it has really stifled business growth and even getting opportunities for young people here in the country, as in job placement, are very difficult. What do you have to say specifically concerning that? You are a businessman.
So absolutely, Aliko Dangote is very correct with his submissions. Aliko Dangote is more like a role model to every business owner, not just in Nigeria, Africa.
Yeah.
And I mean, his statements also just further lends credence to everything was talked about, the new interest rates in the past few weeks. So if a business tycoon like Aliko Dangote is coming up with that, opinion, and I think he's just speaking the minds of the other businessmen and manufacturers in Nigeria. Now, we've talked about this interest rate, and we've said that our Monetary Policy Committee, whoever thought about that, reviewing that interest rate upward, made a very wrong move. Now, the new interest rate for 26.25%. Yes, is a lot of frustrations to business owners. We live in a country where business owners are left to do a lot of things by themselves. Manufacturers will manufacture or generate their own power. They will build roads to their own factories. They will pay heavy taxes and still pay huge interest rates on loans to run their businesses. You see, this is not the best time to be alive in Nigeria. As a businessman in Nigeria, that's the honest truth. The policies that our government keeps coming up with are policies that are taking us aback as a country and even as business owners. Our unemployment rate right now, as we speak, is put to about 5%. Last quarter of last year, our unemployment rate was about 4.2%. So there is a surge in our unemployment rate due to the fact that business owners are going through a lot of problems running businesses.
Even downsizing.
In the past 2 years, I lost count of how many businesses who have shut down to leave this country, to move to other countries, to start running their businesses. Just a few months ago, we heard about Microsoft shutting down their businesses in Nigeria. Last year, we heard about GSK. So I don't know. So when all these companies that are giving jobs to Nigerian youth leave, what will be left of Nigerians? What is going to be left of Nigeria, even as a country? So we're going to be left with poverty, and when poverty happens, it's going to also surge up our insecurity. Youth will be jobless. They'll start thinking of other ways of survival. The crime rate will increase. So a lot is really wrong with our monetary policy sector, and I think that the CBN needs to do better. If you look at a country right now, top 10 list of richest countries in Africa, Nigeria is not on that list. You will find countries like Mauritius, you find countries like Egypt, you find countries like Algeria, you find countries like Morocco, South Africa. Nigeria is not on the list of top 10 African countries. Nigeria used to be the largest African economy, largest economy in Africa, but right now we've lost that position to South Africa. Right now our GDP is about $253 billion. South Africa has a GDP of about almost $477 billion US. Nigeria used to be in that position before. So what is really happening? So a lot of these policies that our government keeps churning out, keeps taking us aback as a country. And if somebody like Dangote is voicing out to say, this is killing, Dangote has an employee strength of over 30,000 people. If he ventures to say, you know what, I can't go further, that means 30,000 people will be jobless. So our Monetary Policy Committee needs to do better. We are a country of over 64 years old or thereabout. At this point in our lives, there are certain things that we should have gotten right. If you go to countries like South Africa, the interest rate in South Africa is single digit, about 8.25%. And that's why their GDP is that's why they're doing well right now economically. But at Nigeria, our interest rate is 26.25%. We keep increasing this rate every other month. It's like our monetary policy committee don't have any other thing to do than to keep increasing the interest rate.
A school of thought believes that most times they just try to do copy and paste economic analysis from what they have seen working maybe in other climes, in the Western climes, and they just try to import those policies or textbook approach to us, which has not in any way helped the situation, because over time there's been one increase to the other, in terms of the MPR and everything, and that has not really done any positive adjustment, But the question right now would be, how do we begin to support the manufacturer and the local players to ensure that our local content, are put to the world map? Because as it is right now, he talked about Nigeria, always important, and because of the issues we have, we cannot even think out of the box to even export, because we've not been able to meet our local needs, because we can't even do businesses here, not to talk about branching out internationally. So what should we be doing in the immediacy?
So it's not so of a bad thing to even do copy and paste. That's if you're copying from the right.
If it works for them, then we don't have the same situation.
So my point is, we take these advanced countries as a template to a lot of policies that we make in Nigeria. The Bank of England currently, their interest rate for a while now has been about 5.25%. Go to America, their interest rate is also about 5.25%. The country that has one of the highest interest rates in Africa is Ghana. So, and that is also telling off on Ghana. What's Ghana doing? How are they doing? They're not also doing good also. Their interest is about 29%. So if you look at all those countries that has high interest rate, they're not doing well. So if you really want to take a tour or follow a queue, you should look at countries like Switzerland. They have one of the lowest interest rates. America also has one of the, so right now, America right now is one of the largest countries that has the best, that is doing well economically in the world right now, with a GDP of about $27 trillion US. Followed by countries like the other country also doing about 17,000 US dollars. So now my submission is that our manufacturers right now, a lot of manufacturers right now are frustrated in Nigeria because of these policies. We don't manufacture in Nigeria. That's no news anymore. Yes. We import almost everything we use as builders, as manufacturers. We import almost everything, and that's because the cost of running a business is very, very frustrating in Nigeria. Now, if we don't get it right with these new interest rates, we'll continue to frustrate many other businesses out of the system, and it will continue to lead to job loss. Now, so my honest truth, if we really want to get it right, our MPC, CBN needs to come back to a roundtable and review that interest rate backward. We don't have any issues. Nigeria is a blessed country. We have been around for a while. There's been so much happening in our monetary system policy. There's been so much happening in the manufacturing industry. But I also do think that the president of this country needs to come up and make sure that things don't go wrong like this, because we will get it wrong. Okay. Now, if you look at what has happened in the past 2 months, our interest rate has been increased, our inflation rate has been increased, manufacturers are complaining, builders are complaining, cost of running businesses is not so friendly, and something else will be done quickly.
Okay, but if you look at it really, before I talk about recent development, if you look at it critically over time, a school of thought believes that most of these issues are not that are plaguing our economy, are institutional, because we've tried to tackle the fiscal and monetary policy, yet they are not working. Ordinarily, if you raise interest rate, money in circulation will reduce, and then somehow inflation would also reduce. But a school of thought believes that if we tackle some of these institutional, systemic issues we have, like addressing the issue of insecurity, addressing the issues of food insecurity, food supply in the country, that way, if all those things are stamped in the board, farmers should be able to go back to work, and there will be food security, and Nigerians can actually buy food at normal cost, not like the escalated price of over 300%. And somehow, it will have like a ripple effect on the economy. Do you agree?
So I strongly agree with that. we cannot, once we get it wrong, once we miss the roadmap to job creation, it's very, very impossible for us to tackle insecurity. If people are jobless, they're going to become vices to different crimes. And idle man is the devil's workshop.
Yes, sir.
We keep churning out graduates every other time. But where are the jobs for them to do? That's why most of our graduates today have become content creators online, churning out irrelevant content, sending out wrong messages and all that. That's because there's no job. Nigeria is a country of over 220 million people. South Africa is a country of about 59 million people. Mauritius is a country of about 1.3 million people. Mauritius right now is one of the leading top richest African countries right now. You will find countries like Egypt, there you find countries like Morocco, Botswana, Libya. These are countries that have less people and they're small islands doing so well. Nigeria, we have all the resources, we have the land, we have the human capacity in terms of numbers, and we're not doing. I have been to countries, I have been to Kenya, Rwanda. These countries have 24 hours power. For us to tackle these systems, these issues systematically, we must. That's why Dangote is saying, no power, no growth, no prosperity. A country that has no power will not grow, and there won't be prosperity.
True.
Countries where we still, after many years of independence, we still struggle to have common 24 hours power. It is only Nigeria that I know that has that discrimination of band A, band B, band C. Every country that I've traveled to in my life has 24 hours power, and there's no discrimination for whether to have the high income earners on band A, the low income earners on. That's not. I've never heard that in my entire life. Once there's power, everybody has access to it, provided that you can vend, pay as you go. So the whole idea of having band A, band for me is total discrimination. I think should be stopped. Right now, we should have uninterrupted power system in our country as we speak today. But I think deliberately that area is also being scuffled. But that's one of the root causes of where we are today. Manufacturers cannot survive. Go to all the industrial areas around Lagos. A lot of them have abandoned their factories. They can no longer continue to produce because of the cost of production is killing. Bank loans, as high as over 30%, and that's why you have somebody like Dangote who is crying out to say, this is not sustainable.
All right. So as we begin to round off the discourse now, recently, aside from the issue of interest rate, businesses have complained about taxation over time and how it has impacted on their businesses, both manufacturers, both farmers, both even people in the real estate spheres like you and other business sectors. Now, but from what we hear, the federal government is exempting some sort of tax. That's the withholding tax for farmers, for manufacturers, I think small and medium enterprises. So in as much as we're still trying to tackle the issue of interest rate, how far do you think this exemption for taxes for this set of businesses would actually impact on the economy?
So I think that's a good step in the right direction. If they're giving them this exemption for them to have this leverage, so for me, we always and we must continue to look for ways to create an enabling environment for our manufacturers. Those in the agricultural sector right now are trying to do so well to see how we can salvage a lot of situations in the agricultural sector. In the past few years, that sector has been looked away from, and look at what has happened in the past few months. Cost of food items has increased, and for us to reduce that cost of food items, we need to make an enabling environment for those people in those sectors, so that the burden wouldn't be too much on them to carry. They are experiencing so much already in terms of funding. They are experiencing so much already in terms of other security issues. So for the government to come up with that idea, I think is a good step, and I think it will make life.
To maybe walk me through how this interest rate has impacted directly on the real estate segment once again.
Okay, so the interest rates, the new interest rate from the Apex Bank, the CBN, and also the rate of inflation right now. Oh, yes, so the question is, as real estate practitioners, are we also, feeling the pinch? Yes, we're also feeling it because Now, the purchasing power of clients has have drastically reduced. If you go around the whole of the island right now, you see a lot of properties put up for sale. Some are even up for rent. It's difficult to even get it to people to rent it. It's difficult to get buyers because right now everybody's trying to adjust to the new issue of the new interest rates. Even to get loans from banks to buy properties right now is a problem. Banks are even, both by microfinance, the mortgage banks, a lot of them are even scared of giving out loans because we talked about it, non-performing loans last week.
Yes,
so these are issues. So if you give out loans right now for people, how are you sure that you get back your money? We said last week that our non-performing loans right now with the SMEs is close to about 1.32 trillion. Those are issues. So that means some banks right now are suffering because it is difficult for them to recover loans. So right now, the real estate sector is also affected. Purchasing power of clients have reduced. In the past few months, I don't think I've sold any property this year as a real estate person, and it just goes to show that everybody's feeling that blow, and I think that something has to be done. That interest rate has to be reduced. Our inflation rate also has to come back to what it used to be. Right now, our inflation rate is almost about 30%.
Yes, it is.
Cost of building materials have increased. Cost of paying for services have increased. So it's just trickling down, and I think something has to be done.
All right, something really has to be done as soon as not, so that our businesses can actually survive and Nigerians can get gainful employment. So the issues of insecurity and youth restiveness can be addressed big time, because if we don't tackle all of this, our economy will suffer. When all the manufacturers and local players leave the country for other countries where they can get ease of doing businesses, we are the ones that suffer. At the end of the day, we keep on importing and we keep on spending so much of our scarce forex. Thank you so much, Mustafa Iwenla, for your time and the insight that you have brought on the show. Well, that's the size of the show for today. I have been speaking with Mustafa Iwenla. He's an estate surveyor and a public affairs analyst, and we have been looking at the issue of interest rate and its impact on the business clients in Nigeria, and of course how it's impacted on employment and unemployment specifically in our country. My name is Justin Akadeni. Many thanks for being a part of the show. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bukky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Shimori Badejo holds a first degree in mass communications, master's in communications arts, and a PhD in social psychology, specializing in mass mobilization.
The simplest definition of public relations, which also relates to a nation, is doing good and letting people know. Now, what we hear, it's people demarketing even their country. I grew up in a home where the fear of God was actually implanted on us.
What led you to the good old days?
I realized that they lack sense of history. Even if history is not allowed in schools anymore, let us see how we can bring snippets of this history.
Timeless Conversations, airing every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
True Nigerians, Heroes of Our Time, a program where we celebrate Nigerians as a people and Nigeria as a country.
It's uniquely different from every other TV program. Why?
because it's a celebration of Nigerians, both at home and in diaspora, who have achieved in their various fields. A celebration of patriotism, hard work, role models. It's all about Nigerians as a people and Nigeria as a country. My name is Zaki Adze. Join me every Thursday, 9 p.m. and a repeat broadcast every Sunday, 12:30 p.m. on this station to celebrate true Nigerians, heroes of our time.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
It's the unthinkable. Nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees have been driven out of their homes and villages in Myanmar into neighboring Bangladesh. It is by far one of the world's largest humanitarian crises today.
The Rohingya are descendants of the ancient Southeast Asian kingdom of Arakan. Its borders face the Bay of Bengal to its west, the Indian subcontinent to its north, and Burma proper to its east, isolated by the Arakan Mountains and accessible primarily by sea.
In the 8th century, Muslim traders brought Islam to Arakan, where the religion spread. In the 18th century, Arakan was conquered by the neighboring Burmese people.
Until recently, the descendants of the Arakan, now known as the Rohingya, lived isolated from the majority Buddhist population in what is now called the Rakhine state of Myanmar.
But Myanmar denied Rohingya the right to citizenship, their basic rights to study, work, or access to health services were severely restricted. Beginning in 2012, Western leaders started to take notice.
In Rakhine State, we see the danger of continued tensions there.
Then, in August 2017, tensions between the Rohingya and the Burmese boiled over. Rohingya rebels attacked Myanmar security forces. The military quickly counterattacked.
The violence against civilians has forced more than 500,000 people to flee for their lives.
Hundreds have been killed. At least 200 villages have been burned to the ground.
The word is genocide.
We must shine a spotlight on these accounts of ethnic cleansing.
This is the story behind the catastrophic humanitarian crisis affecting Southeast Asia and the story of the people trying to help the Rohingya.
Look around me. This river, it's part of the border between the nation of Bangladesh and the nation of Myanmar. It's a short distance from the Rohingya refugee camps. And this is one of the border locations where many desperate Rohingya refugees, under the most unthinkable conditions, cross this river, fleeing for their lives. There are about 1 million Rohingyas here in Bangladesh. They're living in very tough conditions with very uncertain futures. Not every Rohingya was able to escape to Bangladesh. Many, numbers unknown, were murdered, slaughtered. The United Nations has identified these vicious acts as ethnic cleansing. You've heard the phrase, never again. But those words ring hollow here. It has happened again to the Rohingyas.
they came one of the groups to our village and then came to our markets and they looted all of the expensive things and then they set fire.
Also, they come into our village and shooting the everywhere, just firing like shooting the like this on fire. No meet, no discuss, no question, just shooting.
When Mohib Bullah's village was attacked, he traveled for 8 days to reach safety. I have heard that that there was killings, shootings, killings with machete, rapes of women.
Yes.
Do you know anybody who was killed by machete, shot, or raped?
Yeah, a lot of people we know.
When they brought in our villages and the market, that time I saw with my own eyes.
Did you see anyone killed with your own eyes?
Yes. One of my villagers also killed on the way.
Running and got shot?
Yeah.
Kasim was a school teacher in his home village where he can trace his family history back at least 4 generations.
My family is also one of the brothers who were killed by the Burmese government.
So you're taking care of your brother's child, and sister-in-law, your brother's wife?
Yes.
How do you deal with this?
I love him very much. No, I am taking care of him. He is my daughter's child.
Why do you think that the Myanmar military did this?
The government trying the whole country to be Buddhist.
So this is a religious dispute?
Religious. It is the religious thing. They're trying to be Buddhist country. All will be Buddhist.
I heard several stories like this, claiming that the attacks were religiously motivated, Buddhist on Muslim, and calculated to drive out the Rohingya. No government confirms that story, but the Rohingya here believe it.
I had to leave my children in the midst of firing and chaos. What could I do?
So she was in her home when the military of Myanmar showed up. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
What happened to the village?
The village was burned. As the houses were set on fire, a lot of the people could not get out. Some were hacked to death, or their bodies were lit on fire. Little children were thrown away violently.
How did you get separated from your 2 children?
In Myanmar, our home was attacked suddenly by gunfire. That moment, I escaped through an open door, and I grabbed one of my children who was close to me. Soon I saw my whole house was on fire. I do not know what happened to the others. There was no way to know who was shot or who was butchered. I could not find out.
I just can't even imagine how hard this is. I almost don't know what to say to you. I'm at a loss for words.
My son was 5. My daughter 7.
What's her name, in case anyone is watching?
Shahida.
And what is your son's name?
Mahmoud al-Hassan.
So for now, the new home for the Rohingya is in neighboring Bangladesh, the Kutupalong refugee camp. What was once a lush forest is now a sprawling slum that reaches out for miles.
I had no idea how big it was going to be, so seeing just how huge the camp was, just on and on and on with all of the people, that was kind of my first impression, was just the huge scope of it. Like, I'd heard about it, you see the statistics, you see the numbers, but to be here in person and seeing how extensive it is, that's something completely different. Like, once you get in, besides just looking at the physical stuff, looking at like the people, the feel of the camp when I walk through it, there's just this sense of a lot of people that are just kind of surviving, not really living, just kind of getting by day to day.
An initial settlement of refugees already existed here, but after the violence in August of 2017, the camp started to grow by enormous numbers. When they arrived, the Rohingya had no homes, no shelters, no source of heat for cooking. But what the land held was trees. And one by one, they were cut down. The trees that held the hillsides became campfires and shelters that now stretch to the horizon. Kaylin Briggs is an American who has worked in 5 countries in the last 5 years. She is now with World Vision, a relief agency which is active here. She has seen the growth.
When we had this massive population influx last August, we had to expand the area where those people were living. So what we're in now is called the expansion camp. So it's basically a much larger camp that's built sort of around the original site.
Any idea what the population of the expanded camp is? About
over 600,000.
Of the expanded camp, that would include the original camp too?
That doesn't include the original camp. So,
oh, it does not?
No. So if you include the original camp and all of the little bits around it, we're up to around 900,000 people. So this is the largest refugee camp in the world.
But they are cut off. They cannot leave the camp. Officially, the Bangladesh government has even put restrictions on the sale of SIM cards to refugees for their cell phones, citing security precautions. Formal education is not allowed. Some organizations sponsor language lessons for children, but not in the local trade language, Bengali. Though there is little to do, there are few sources of entertainment, no television, limited internet, and only weak radio signals with little information in the Rohingya language. Since refugees don't have work permits, they are officially not allowed to have jobs. It's fertile ground for the breeding of extremists and terrorism.
We often say in these types of emergencies that idleness is one of the biggest threats. When people have too much time, when they don't have the opportunity to work or do things, that's when we start seeing risks go up in camps.
Kids are kids, and they try to keep busy. And while the Rohingya may not be able to fill proper jobs, it doesn't stop them from working. You do find some computers in use here and there, but I'm told that their usage also requires permission from authorities in the camps. So no work, no schooling, no movement, not much of a life. No one, not governments, not relief workers, and least of all the Rohingya themselves, knows how long they will be here and when or if they will ever be able to return home. And there's more. Another pressing, potentially disastrous enemy has come to the Rohingya. Here comes the rain.
Yeah, we can go there.
Can I get under your thing for a second? This is what the million people, the million Rohingyas in this refugee camp are having to put up with. This is the monsoon season. This is a crisis on top of a crisis. It is raining like crazy. It's not going to stop raining. This is no ordinary rain. This is a monsoon. And what's happening, what's already happened, is there are mudslides. But that's not where it stops. I mean, look, here's a latrine, but the latrines are filthy. And what happens is they make the water filthy. There's water running all the way through. You can see the water underneath me. It just doesn't stop raining. And it's just a breeding ground for all sorts of diseases. You've got cholera and so many other diseases that come when you have filthy water. And that's just the beginning. But how can anyone expect these people to get food to live? How can you expect their structures to stand up? And now the structures are literally going to wash down upon each other. Bridges are washing away. This is what the spotlight needs to be put on, because these people are desperate. But it's only going to get worse. The danger is clear to relief workers like May Sepan of Food for the Hungry and Medical Teams International.
Essentially, their settlements are built on what appears to be sand dunes because they're deforested lands that have no way of protecting the population against the monsoon rains. And so it's very likely that most of these settlements will get washed out as the rains increase and the storms become more intense.
We identified something like 200,000 people are at risk from landslides with this heavy monsoon. It's almost like a race against time.
Shelley Thackrow gave up a career as a journalist to work in crisis environments just like this one.
We've been trying to really move families as fast as we can to flatter, safer land, so relocated to a part of the camp which has been flattened, but also so that safer shelter can also be built.
I walked the camp with Rebecca Derry, the country representative for Samaritan's Purse, a U.S.-based Christian relief organization. Dozens of agencies from all over the world, including the United States, have sent teams to the camp to help the Rohingya. They're providing medical care, shelter materials, food, and dozens of other relief services. The camp is too large and the need too great for just one agency to handle it all. They've split Kutupalong into a number of smaller camps where individual charities take responsibility.
What is this camp called? This is still the Camp 12?
Yes.
20,000 plus live here?
20,000 plus.
And you can see how all the houses or homes are built into this hilly terrain. So when the monsoon starts in earnest, it creates a horrible danger.
Absolutely.
So what's to protect these houses from pancaking on top of each other?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
While I was in Camp 16, I met Fatima. When her family fled from Myanmar, her husband was killed. Her son lives in the camps, but is so traumatized that I'm told he just roams around aimlessly. She was helped by CARE.
When we first reached Bangladesh, we took shelter at the bank of a river, but there was land erosion. Then some representatives from CARE told us that there were some new shelters being built further inland. They advised us and then helped us move here.
But for every person like Fatima, there are dozens of others needing immediate help. The needs come flooding in every day, every hour, every minute.
Every single moment the crisis builds. This is interesting. Here comes an ambulance. Before I was talking about how dangerous it is, how do you get cars in to help people? This is an ambulance. Hello, sir. It's very dangerous up there. You might want to drive slowly. I don't know if you can go or not. They say that, but I don't know. You'll be the first to go through, and it's pretty narrow. Why don't you get out of the car and go look at it?
I have a patient already.
You have a patient in there? Do you have a patient in there?
Yeah. And I have a patient.
Where are you trying to get it to the patient to? To the hospital right there. Where, up on the hill? See, this is what the danger is. This is an ambulance. And when I say something new happens every 5 minutes, before I was talking about how the road washed out, how dangerous it was. Now we've got a patient in an ambulance trying to get to the hospital up there. And this road is supposedly repaired, but even my own weight, I can push the soil down. Wait till the rain comes. I don't know what happens when heavy vehicles go through. Every time you turn around, there's another bigger crisis. And you wonder, how much more can these people endure? How much more? And it just doesn't stop.
For the refugees, it's a perfect storm. Persecution, mudslides, idleness, disease. While there is much that is good that is being done here, this camp has also become a target for those who would come to prey on the Rohingya. The Kutupalong refugee camp in Bangladesh is just across the river from the home of the Rohingya. The Myanmar military has driven nearly 1 million Rohingya to this camp.
Textbook ethnic cleansing.
The international community has condemned the government for the violence against Rohingya civilians that amounted to what the United Nations termed as ethnic cleansing.
Every woman or girl I spoke with reported having either endured all witnessed sexual violence.
It is imperative that the international community take decisive measures to address this grave crisis.
Most have little or nothing to go back to. Their homes and villages have been destroyed.
We are struggling. We need resources fast.
It's a humanitarian crisis, only made worse by the monsoon rains. The Rohingya here are caught in limbo. They cannot have jobs, there are no schools, there are few sources of information. They sit idle, unhappy, and largely dependent on aid supplied by international governmental and non-governmental organizations who have sent good people to help.
One child.
But besides those who bring relief, others are drawn to the camps to take advantage of the crisis. As so often happens, the victims are victimized a second time. Most vulnerable are women and young girls who are targeted by traffickers to be lured or taken and used for forced labor or sex.
I discovered traffickers after sunset. 5 o'clock, there is no foreigners and no locals allowed.
I met with a human rights activist in nearby Cox's Bazar. Ali Kabir had worked in agriculture his whole life. He says he could no longer remain silent while others were suffering at the hands of some Rohingya who themselves had fled years before.
Only old Rohingyas, those who are registered here since 1978, 1991, old Rohingyas, they are staying in Bangladesh. They know everything. They know every rules. They are very familiar with Bangladesh culture. Human traffickers hiding them. And they go inside the camp and talk with the families, convince them that they were going to provide a good job, better future, better life abroad, and better opportunities like this.
So the people that are involved in the trafficking are Rohingyas who have been here in Bangladesh long before the latest exodus of Rohingyas from Myanmar?
Yep.
So you're talking the population that's doing the trafficking are Rohingya who have been here in Bangladesh for a number of years.
Yes, they are become a broker of the big trafficking network.
How do they get the women out of the camps? Because the Bangladesh government won't let the Rohingyas leave the camps. I mean, the Rohingyas who came over from Myanmar in the last year and a half can't leave the camps. So how do the brokers get them out of the camps?
Well, ma'am, I tell you, here in Bangladesh have no system in checkpost. In checkpost, they check only Bangladesh NID card, national ID card, and human traffickers obtain fake national ID card.
He also showed me pictures of the women he says were victims.
So she's a Rohingya.
Yes.
From the refugee camp, and they were going to sell her or bring her out of the country.
Yes.
What was she getting paid? Do you know? And what was the offer?
Offer was providing her in a beauty parlor job abroad, Malaysia, Thailand, and providing her, in a job in a factory.
Did you ever speak to her parents or her family?
Yeah, I speak to her parents. They was very in shock after they learned a real story, real thing.
So they thought it was a legitimate deal that she was going overseas for this career?
Yes.
Did any of them get emotional?
They just requested me not to tell this thing to the other people because her future will be dark.
Future in terms of getting a husband or future employment?
Not husband.
Husband, really?
And, husband, and the community will not let them live in peace.
So it's a very much a cultural thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the people who are going to insult them they will not get a well respect, and they will not get sitting with the other relatives. They're going to hate her. They will look at her in a very, in a bad eyes.
Are Rohingya families protesting about this or complaining? Or are they saying anything if a member of their family, goes off into some sex trade?
Well, ma'am, where they're going to protest? There is no any proper place where they can go submit a complaint. where they can go seek a legal process, where they can go seek justice, where they can go.
I was in a forced marriage for 8 months. I was told the army could take me away by force. It would be better if I got married in order to save my honor. Since my mother is blind, she agreed to marry me off. We had just arrived in Bangladesh for the first time. We didn't know anything about the place. We didn't know the laws or the rules. We came here with a lot of fear from all the violence.
They are very helpless, hopeless. There was no police. They're in the camp, nothing, and there was, in a fair, and they given the daughter to him.
So she goes with him. Was she crying or screaming or upset or agreeable? I mean, what?
She don't want it to him.
I was so fearful. I'm just a teenager. But they grabbed my neck and I was so scared. That's why I was crying a lot. I was so upset. My mom said God has not given permission. But those people said it was God's will to get married to that man. My mom turned to me and told me to just accept my fate.
And where he can go ask protection. And the parents said, I'm sorry, we are helpless. He is going to kill us and we have to give my daughter to him.
This man came and took her, and I guess took her, is that for sex?
Marry her.
Or this would be wife number 3.
Yeah, marry her. Later, when the first wife pressuring him, he let her.
So he let her go?
Let her go. This Rohingya girl have no value.
No value?
No value.
Because she's Rohingya?
Yes.
0.
0.
And there's something else the Rohingya here don't talk about. When the Burmese military attacked, they didn't just kill and set houses on fire. They raped. And the victims of those rapes are here now. They face a terrible stain that their own culture puts on them and on their newborns.
We're seeing a lot of women that are coming in right about now that have voiced to us that the babies are a result of rape.
Sarah Rawlings is a nurse from Seattle, Washington. She both treats and counsels the victims. The challenges she faces are heartbreaking.
It's a really hard one. We've seen some pretty dire things happen as a result of unwanted pregnancies.
Are the women having babies in their homes?
Yeah. Many of the women are having babies in their homes. I'd say the majority are having babies in their homes and are not coming in here. Just the other week, one of our community health workers found a baby that had been left in a latrine, was still alive, but covered in feces. They've been actually trying to track down and find the woman, but since the baby has been taken into another organization and they're feeding the baby and trying to offer support and find community members that can help raise the child.
So they expect this child to survive that was found in the feces in the latrine?
I believe the child right now is at a Doctors Without Borders hospital.
Is that an unusual situation? Are you finding other situations where women are trying to either terminate their pregnancies or having difficult births, or are you finding more of that?
We're seeing more and more, and we've had several, probably 20 plus women that I've spoken with since I've been here that have told me they want to terminate their pregnancy and that they don't want the child and that the child is a result of rape.
Rohingya culture is very complicated. Even the rape victims, those who have been raped by Myanmar military, you know what they say? Oh, she have a evil in her belly. Stay away from her.
If you've been raped by the Myanmar
military, they were saying evil in her belly. Stay away from her. I want to talk with one pregnant from the rape. Other Rohingyas advising me, sir, Please don't talk to her. She have an evil in her belly.
What happens after the baby's born?
She have no place in the society of Rohingya.
Zero, none.
Zero, yes. Her life is dark, and everybody comes to know. A lot of Rohingya girls, those who have been raped by the Myanmar military, they're hiding. They're hiding, they're suffering quietly, silently. They don't want to expose, they don't want to say, they don't want to say nothing.
So what do? What can we do? What's next for the 1 million people who seem to want little more than to go home? More than a year after this crisis began, there's a lot that seems normal in the Kuta Palong refugee camp. You see it best when the rain stops and the sun comes out. There's now something of an economy here and a social structure familiar to the Rohingya. Because communication with the outside is so difficult, when news comes in, it spreads like wildfire from person to person. It's not always 100% accurate, but it's a way for the Rohingya to believe they are not being forgotten. The one nation that is focused on the Rohingya is the host country, Bangladesh. But even though the country is devoting resources and energy, it seems clear Bangladesh does not want the Rohingya to remain. In fact, the Bangladesh government only reluctantly calls them Rohingya, preferring the term forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals. That's a reminder that this is all temporary. Myanmar says it will welcome back the refugees, but in refugee camps, not their villages. And even if that occurs, the government of Aung San Suu Kyi says they will still be denied citizenship and officially remain stateless under the Myanmar Constitution. They will still be stigmatized. People here doubt that without international intervention, they will ever see their home villages again.
When you talk to people in the camp, they say they want to go home. They are absolutely clear about that, but they will tell you, we want to go home when it's safe to do so and when we are able to access our rights in Myanmar. And so far, we haven't seen much progress, and they tell us that they haven't seen much progress in seeing conditions improve for them. And so I think that's, from our point of view, where we really do need to see governments like the US stepping up, not just the financial assistance, but also the diplomatic engagement to try to come up with a solution to this crisis that enables people to eventually be able to return to their homes in a safe and voluntary way.
If there's any sort of silver lining in this cloud, is that you really are inspired by the people who are here, who are really trying to help so many who are in desperate need. But this is a task that, frankly, no matter how much people want to help, there's not enough.
So we feed more than 850,000 people a month. It costs more than $20 million a month to feed families. So that's urgent. It's still important that we don't forget this community. It's still important that we support this community and that we make sure that women and children and those who are most vulnerable get the life-saving food that they need.
And so for many of the groups that are here, there's just not enough funding to meet the needs that we have.
We've got a lot of skin infections, skin disease, a lot of dehydration, diarrheal diseases. We've had a huge kind of mumps outbreak, and then diphtheria. Diphtheria is on the tail end coming down, but really malnutrition, then also a lot of kind of obstetrical needs.
Americans are generous, people are generous all over the world, so tell me, what do you need?
What do we need?
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
What do you need? Do you need, like, if here's your chance. Is there something,
yeah.
What would you like? What do you need here?
This is going to be here a long time, so I think more people is,
volunteers and
yeah.
people are in?
Yeah.
Do you see people with malnutrition coming into?
Oh, for sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, food, for sure, funding, always.
So this is where Dr. Collin will make a decision about what kind of treatment this child needs. And if it's treatment that we can provide here, we will make him an inpatient. So this is where all the decisions are made about what kind of treatment the child needs.
Who's organizing all of this?
It's a multi-group organization. We are connected with Doctors Without Borders, the Turkish Field Hospital, other organizations that are providing care. we all connect and talk and decide which patients should go where.
I mean, it's incredible, all these organizations here. There are almost 1 million people in all these camps.
Absolutely.
Purse treated for diphtheria, and they thought the child was not going to make it, but this is one of those good stories.
So this child came in very sick with diphtheria. He was having respiratory distress. We had to work several hours with him to get the antitoxin into him. So he was really struggling to breathe, and we really thought we were going to lose him for a few moments there. Actually, for a while, we thought we'd lose him.
How old is he?
He is 2.5.
Did you have to intubate him?
We did intubate him.
Which is, you put something in his mouth, it goes down his throat, and then you use like a bladder because you don't have enough. We're not here in the United States in some hospital. You've explained this to me, is that it's a field hospital, is that you have to keep pumping. How long did someone have to keep pumping it?
Hours.
Hours and hours to help him breathe.
Yes.
And you saved him.
We did.
What a great story. Oh, he's got the boots
And
on.
here he is.
Oh, he's got his boots on. Oh, he's not happy though. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh dear.
And there he goes.
It's daunting some days, but I think we're making progress. Things like providing education to adolescents, providing livelihoods opportunities, providing skills training, and just things to occupy people's time is something that's really important. If we can get that recognition that this will be a longer-term crisis, and we can get permission to start implementing some of those types of activities like the formal education, that we can help to sort of counterbalance some of the idleness that comes with displacement.
In the area known as Camp 13, I met a boy whose name we've changed because of concerns for his safety if he returns home. Hamid has been drawing about his life. He has seen and gone through things a child should never have to experience.
He did this, Arma?
He did this.
Did all by himself. It says my worlds, but can you explain it?
These are the places where I lived.
So, what's this?
This house was burned to the ground.
And that's his house.
Yes, this was my home.
What's the hand for?
I saw a hand that had been cut off of someone, and there was blood.
So this represents a hand that he saw where? In the ground, just on the ground?
People were slaughtered, and there were dead bodies on the ground.
So now there's a line. Why did he draw a line down the middle? This is his new life?
One side is for my life in Myanmar, the other side is for my life in Bangladesh.
What's this?
That's the boat we used to cross the border.
Who are these, like, people?
The teachers are teaching the children.
And this?
Thank you. That is an owl.
Oh, it's an owl? What's the noise the owl makes? No, all right. Well, I'm not going to do it for you. Tell him I hope that he continues to do his art. How do you say thank you?
Shukriya.
What is it?
Shukriya.
Sukriya. He laughed. I'm not very good at Sukriya. Is that like what? Like not so good? Oh well, I tried, right? Sukriya. I tried.
I think when you look at the number of Rohingya refugees in the camps, it's a daunting figure. But when you break down those figures and you are in the camps engaging with these individuals, you realize they're just like you and me.
Hi, hello, hello. Where'd you learn that? Bye-bye.
They are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons and daughters. I mean, their hopes and dreams are no different from our own hopes and dreams for our children and our communities.
I want to be a teacher. I want to be able to provide for my family.
It's quite heartbreaking to be here and see the catastrophe that could happen to these people, and knowing that much of the world doesn't care or doesn't know about it. So it's devastating to me to see this entire people group who have such great needs not being shown in the public, not being broadcast in the United States. No one really knows about it, and it's really hard to see that.
Recently, I was in the camp a couple days ago, and there was a father with his newborn baby who's, I think, days old, and the baby was sick, but he just sort of had this glassy look, and that comes from sustained periods of hardship and trauma. People are very resilient, however, you can see the experience of suffering and traumatic experiences lived in their expressions in their eyes.
Don't you think I'm very sad? I've given up my home in Myanmar. Lots of people were killed in Burma. I've suffered so much. Here in this camp we are having a miserable life, yet I don't feel anything for life in Burma. Here I'm getting lots of assistance. They have built my home out of tarps, so at least I have a roof over my head. If I go back to Burma, who will look after me? I lost my husband, and my son is gone. I escaped here. I have shelter and food, so for that I am thankful.
I think we're at the stage now where we need to be collectively recognizing that this is not a short-term crisis. These people are not leaving next week. They're probably not leaving next month. And I think we need to be prepared for the possibility that they're going to be here for many months, if not years to come.
Here in the camps, the days drag by. More than 1 year after they were attacked and run out of their villages, the Rohingya remain in Bangladesh. Citizens and governments are now working together on their behalf, but what will happen to them? And they are not alone. More than 60 million people around the world are counted as refugees or involuntary migrants. All have their own stories of hardships, secrets, and great need. They all face uncertain futures. But no matter where they are, they all look ahead with hope. The hope that one day they will no longer be displaced.
The Sahel extends almost 6,000 kilometers, 3,700 miles along the southern edge of the Sahara, from the Horn of Africa on the east to the western Atlantic coast. There's little rainfall in the Sahel, and farmers struggle to eke out a living in some of the harshest agricultural conditions on Earth. As climate change brings more intense droughts and degrades land in the Sahel, intercommunal violence over dwindling resources has increased. Much of the conflict is between herders and farmers who vie against each other to use the land for their own purposes. Some in the region have joined terrorist groups, militants linked to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, who ride into villages on motorbikes and attack civilians indiscriminately. They wreak havoc and make parts of the region uninhabitable for civilians. While weak states and lack of development are big factors in the conflict, climate change is rarely discussed beyond the level of analysts and warnings from the UN. Unlike terrorists on motorbikes, climate change is a cause of the conflict people on the ground cannot see. But it is there. We travelled to Dori in northeastern Burkina Faso, where people are living on the front line of war and climate change. We wanted to find out how the invisible enemy of climate change is affecting people's lives and driving them from their homes. But first, we had to get there. Dori is the capital of Burkina Faso's war-torn Sahel province and home to thousands displaced by the conflict. The road from Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's capital, to Dori is dangerous because of IEDs and pop-up terrorist checkpoints. Just 5 kilometers outside Dori, terrorists have attacked civilians and UN vehicles multiple times this year. Bagaye Lamizana grew up in Burkina Faso. Today she's based in Bonn, Germany, as project officer for the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification.
Climate change is a kind of invisible enemy in the Sahel conflict. UK Ministry of Defense say that 60 million people will migrate from degraded land, part of Africa, if nothing is done. I think neighboring countries and Europe can see this migration affecting them.
Migration manifests itself in different ways in the Sahel. Some people, as farming becomes impossible, move to the cities in hope of finding work, but often they end up with low-paying jobs or living in poverty. Some of those migrants in turn begin to move further afield, often to Europe. They take trafficking routes through Niger, Algeria, Libya, and then take boats across the Mediterranean. The crisis in the Sahel has displaced nearly 3.5 million people, according to the UN. We met Zara Oreta, living in a host community on the edge of Dori. She's one of the 1.3 million internally displaced people in Burkina Faso. Zara came to Dori from Arbinda, a town about 60 kilometers away, where extremists regularly terrorized the communities, killing men, women and children. An attack on Arbinda in August left more than 80 people dead. She describes the raid that led her to flee Arbinda 2 years ago.
Il n'y a pas c'est comme, puisqu'on pensait même qu'on ne va même pas sortir, puisqu'il y a deux fois, il y a des balles perdues là même, c'est pas facile quoi. Voilà. En tout cas, c'est quoi on pensait là, on pensait que c'était bon, la fin du monde seulement, puisque les bruits de feu là, c'était trop. On a fui rentrer dedans jusqu'à bon, les feux, bon, on n'entendait plus les coups de feu. Maintenant, on est sorti au dehors. Quand on est sorti au dehors, bon, on entendait des nouvelles qui n'est pas bon en tout cas. Ce qu'on a tiré plus de... Ce jour-là, on a tiré plus de 18 personnes. Mais tout ça s'était passé, c'est dans le marché, puisque c'était un jour de marché. Ils ont rentré la première fois. Puisque ça fait que moi-même, je ne me sens pas. J'ai des ulcères, ça fait même. Deux fois, même si j'entends cri ou bien quelque chose comme ça, ça me rappelle de ce qui s'est passé à Arbinda. Moi, je suis une femme mariée. J'ai 5 enfants. Bon, Des fois aussi, en tout cas, c'est que je fais le commerce, je fais le levage aussi. Bon, je fais travaux de ménage, travail de ma famille. Je m'occupe de mon mari et de mes enfants aussi.
In the years before she fled Arbinda, she noticed the weather starting to change. It diminished usable land and forced the community to change too.
Avant, il pleuvait, mais aujourd'hui, en tout cas, il ne pleut pas. Les gens mangeaient en famille, quoi. Et puis surtout, les enfants respectaient les grands. Les grands aussi respectaient les enfants. Les gens venaient, ils soutenaient. Par exemple, les baptêmes comme ça, les gens venaient, ils soutenaient.
Zara says that tensions between herder and farmer communities have increased, shattering the unity that once existed. Salem is also a migrant who fled terrorism. Like thousands of others in Burkina Faso, he's joined a state-backed militia group known as the Volunteers for the Defence of the Homeland. They act as auxiliaries and local guides for the military, but they've also been accused of carrying out extrajudicial killings against civilians they believe are linked to terrorists.
Pagla kam koda me sakda gulo sakda wala kodo butoto sakda pihla la terroriste huwa wa baras kalatin ko jende gulo kalatin gole ko kalatin ko abkin ha ton pil sora kom la ko yudu la nimbana e kwal kalatin karmi lo tor yi kalibe terroriste namba hon ton nimbuide libra nimban ran tar ton pisla ton ko ta songre ton ka mi be pisi ton he te yo rapport ton ka yo rapport ton mi gon ta yo rapport wakad le nem tin tin da bage yo wabu yikun lore tiam ta mi ti ka wa ne be jin kan yikun lore la be ya tiesa ye yam ka mi This is what I'm going to do. This is model of cutting bang. Obsessed, I can now remember what on Bangam Tabam La Water. The problem of Pamponzin is a lingri. Le problème de amiscade, amiscade, ma solo rien va te conva, la bête de mon. On t'a hang la rodo, la table, be ora ni. C'est ça vraiment ça, ton pile fort. Pas la ton cahier hede, ton han ye c'est ton de tianga na je tianga.
Having lived in Burkina Faso for 2 years now, I've borne witness to some of the worst effects of climate change anywhere in the world. It's a big factor in this country's conflict. Step outside of Ouagadougou and into the countryside and you'll find vast numbers of internally displaced people living in extreme poverty. There are IEDs on the roadside, terrorists roam the countryside freely. The state is unable to provide security with an overstretched military and people are living in fear. It seems where people clamour for resources diminished by climate change, they go into fight or flight mode. For those who want to fight, it means joining terror groups. Those groups mostly do not have a religious ideology as their primary aim. Instead, they're financially motivated. They're looking for resources to survive, resources that are being diminished by climate change. For others, like Salem, the effect of climate change means joining a local self-defense militia to try and fight back against the militants. But even he had to leave his hometown, just like Zara or Etta. Resources are simply becoming too scarce, and it's too unsafe to stay. All of them are bound by the same thing, the enemy they cannot see, the man-made warming of the planet. Climate change contributes to conflict, and conflict leads to migration on an unprecedented scale in the Sahel. Analysts say the Sahel is a prototype for what will soon start happening in other parts of the globe as climate change continues and nothing is done. But aside from the devastation, people in the Sahel want to take back control of their futures.
What is the narrative of the Sahel which we could put out there? The Sahel is not only the land where it's a black doom and dying. It's a land of opportunities, having the two faces of the coin, not only the dark one, but also the lightened one. It's a region where you had the great kingdoms. It's a region where you have a vibrant youth. It's a region where you have a massive natural resources. Climate change is not just happening in the Sahel or in Africa. It's a global issue, and it's undermine health, it undermine agriculture, peace, security, in employment, and even economy. So by bringing together and intervening the political will with the action on the ground, we could really change a bit the narrative of the Sahel and give hope.
Ce que en tout cas moi je pense tôt ou tard en tout cas il y aura la paix. Et moi-même je souhaite que la paix règne sur cette terre. C'est ce que en tout cas je prie Dieu chaque fois et que je demande à Dieu que la paix règne pour que toute personne déplacée puisse retourner dans son coin et que la vie continue comme avant.
Tondo kota wende ti ton kamba to lebaran dik ton ha ton naure bala tondo ya buri kyon ya buri kimbi la patrie où la mort nous vaincrons.
My father has a lot of sides, and you hear about the fights. You don't hear about family that much and what that meant to him.
What's your dad's name?
Muhammad Ali.
No one, not even some members of his family, knew of the existence of these audio tapes until recently.
You're now 11 years old.
They thread the narrative of the boxing champion's life in Claire Lewis's documentary. Ali's daughter, Hannah, offered the tapes to Lewis.
Say, I love my daddy.
I love my daddy. I love my poo-poo head daddy.
My father was always conscious about history. And, I think that's one of the reasons why he made this series of audio tape cassette recordings.
Say, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
The film shows the whole world in love with him. Testimonials of friends and adversaries paint the Olympian and three-time boxing champion Cassius Clay, later Muslim convert Muhammad Ali, as a sensitive, poignant, and courageous man. Because he refused to serve in the Vietnam War, he was stripped of his championship title, and his boxing license was revoked. His close friend, former football player Jim Brown, remembers.
He had a lot of courage. The risk he had to take, and then to be isolated, to have his crown taken away, not be able to make a living, that was difficult.
But he stuck to his convictions, and in 1974, at the age of 32,
Ali made a comeback.
When George Foreman meets me, he'll pay his debt. I can drown a drink of water and kill a dead tree. Wait till you see Muhammad Ali.
He defeated formidable George Foreman and recaptured his title.
I get into the ring with the guy. I bluffed him. I done everything. Beat him up. Basically for about 5 or 6 rounds. I thought it was easy. Then about the 6th round, he whispered in my ear after I'd hit him in the side, "That all you got, George?" And that was about all I had.
I Am Ali does not say much about his broken marriages, but it highlights his bond with his children.
I was the Concorde of boxing. I was at a high altitude than the rest, moving fast.
As Ali has aged, we hear him begin to slur his words, a sign of developing Parkinson's disease. He finally retired in the late 1970s, and in the mid-80s he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. But to the world and his children, he remains an icon of power and grace.
If anyone wonder why me, Muhammad Ali, is making these tapes, is because history is so beautiful.
Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Hello, you're welcome to this edition of Timeless Conversations. For me, it's a privilege to be in the presence of my guest. He is an icon in engineering and broadcasting and public service in Nigeria. Pioneer, Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority.
Engineer Vincent Maduka, also named Ifeanyi Chukwu, which means glory to God, was born in the Ekpetado area of Lagos on the 5th of October 1935. He is from Delta State. He attended the Lagos Government School and won a full scholarship to King's College Lagos in 1949. He graduated with a BSc Honours in Electrical Engineering from the University of Leeds, England in 1959, and also received the MENG-SC degree in Applied Acoustics from the University College of Dublin, UCD, Ireland, in 1969. He undertook a graduate apprenticeship with the renowned radio company Marconi Co. Limited in the UK and joined the Western Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, Ibadan, as a broadcast engineer in 1961. He spent a short time at the Irish National Television Organisation, Dublin, in 1968 to 1969, and on return to Ibadan in 1969, he was promoted Chief Engineer. He was appointed General Manager, Chief Executive Officer there in 1973.
Welcome to this program, sir, Engineer Vincent Maduka.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for granting us some time of your very busy schedule. Oh. I put busy in parentheses. You have had a wonderful career, an illustrious career, premised on your study of engineering. What motivated you to study engineering?
Right. Well, the
The easiest answer would be that I enjoyed physics, chemistry, and mathematics. All right, but I also enjoyed English literature. It was European history I was taught, which I enjoyed. But more importantly, to answer your question, was that if I undertook engineering at degree level, I would get a scholarship.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, that was one. Two, there was no engineering school in Nigeria that awarded a degree.
At that time.
So I would go abroad to study. And these were two great attractions. And three, there was a job waiting.
Oh, there was a job waiting once you finished.
Yes. Because in fact, our career master at school went through the government gazette with us because for graduates, the employment was almost clearly going to be in the public service.
Okay.
The private sector at that time couldn't afford to hire university graduates. So some very bright ones, people who went into the private sector, even left at intermediate, taken out of the university, are attracted by good pay and a car, and they left. But generally, if you had a degree, you were going to work in the public sector, by and large. Unless, of course, it was in law or medicine.
Medicine, yes.
And for law and medicine, there were no scholarships.
Oh, there were no scholarships?
No. You paid your way because the pay, your salary was going to be so good that everybody would line up wanting to do those two courses. So in engineering, you're going to get a job in the public sector. In my time, you were going to go abroad to learn it, and with a scholarship.
And so when you returned home after your studies, there was a job waiting for you?
More than that.
Oh.
I was finishing a 2-year mandatory apprenticeship. In fact, with Makuni, a foremost radio company.
The company, yes.
Exactly. And at the end of 2 years, I was considering an offer from them or any other electronic company in the UK. And then a letter comes to me saying, I am a Western Region scholar. I am bonded to work for the Western Region for 5 months, for 5 years.
For 5 years.
I must come and take a job in October 1961.
So no choice.
I had no choice.
So you had to come.
So I had to come. The pay in Nigeria was much higher than anything I was being offered.
Are you?
Pound for pound. And it was, you were an oppressor in Nigeria with that pay. Even with the UK pay, I would be an oppressor in Nigeria, not to mention a pay that was 50% higher in Nigeria
than the UK pay. Also, the motivation was there for you to come back?
Motivation was there for me to come back, clearly, yes. When I came back, this is to make the mouth of those who didn't have that advantage water.
Water.
Yes. I was being offered £600.
Yes.
After 2 years of graduate apprenticeship in the UK. I was being directed to come and take the job, which in the public service was £972 per annum.
That was almost £1,000 then.
More.
Yes.
No, £600. Oh yes, nearly £1,000.
Nearly £1,000.
Yes. Then of course in Nigeria, you had a car loan straight away. I shared a flat with a Ghanaian in Chelmsford, and if I went out to London to work, I couldn't afford a whole flat, I don't think. But anyway, the conditions were far better. But that's also because we were privileged people at that time. I mean, I arrived in Ibadan, car dealers, brand new cars, I'm not talking of used cars, were sending me catalogs. I had a driver, all within 2-3 months of taking on a new job.
Home and taking up that job.
So, but I had to work for 5 years
on bond.
On the bond.
Because of the scholarship.
I enjoyed, yes.
Okay, but while serving that bond out, what was your experience like?
It was completely open-ended for me.
Okay.
As long as I remained there, I think my bond would have expired in 1966.
Yes.
By that time, I'd had at least one promotion from 900 or whatever pounds to 1860.
That's like double.
Yes. By 1967, 68.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. By 67.
67.
I think by 67.
That was still within your bond period.
Yeah, period. So the opportunities were very were ample in those days.
Yes.
But as I said, things were different. When I gained admission into my secondary school, only 25 kids were taken in the whole country.
Into King's College?
Yes. It was a national entrance exam. Only 25 who were admitted.
But the population was low then?
Population was low, but not less than, I don't think we were fewer than 40 million, 30 odd million.
Yes.
Yes.
But then these days were in the hundreds of millions.
Well, Lagos today is 20 million.
Yes, or a little above.
Or a little above.
Yes.
Yes. So it was, we were a small minority, highly privileged, because we were moving into the shoes of the colonial officials. There's no reason why anybody would expect that situation to go on.
Forever.
But you would have planned for a proper growth pattern.
Yes, but in the course of your career, you served in the regional and the federal public services.
Yes.
Would you want to share with us any major differences between the two, or were they similar?
Certainly not in my own experience.
Okay.
They were very different, very different.
In what ways?
First, when I started, it was a political system in place.
That as in a civilian system?
It was civilian.
Okay, sir.
Civilian, rather.
Yes.
In 61, I think Akintola was governor of,
was
the premier,
yes.
Premier of the Western region.
Yes.
Because of the problem in the government party at the time, the Action Group,
yes,
in the two factions,
yes,
there was gross instability in the state. Even
within the entire region.
The entire region,
yes.
rather. And WNTV suffered a lot for it. In my book, I showed how many chairmen, or board chairmen, there were times when a chairman didn't last 90 days before he was replaced, yes.
That's short.
Yes, because given the schism within the party,
yes,
there were shifting alliances.
Yes.
And if you are chairman of a board because you were on this side and
that side loses,
then you're out and another chairman
comes in.
So even the general management was the CEO was invariably from the civil service, and they couldn't run a business, they couldn't run broadcasting anyway, and so it was a very unstable situation until the coup of 1966, when we then had a military governor. All right, and comparatively, I mean, it was far, far better and stable environment in the broadcasting house.
Okay.
When we had Fajui.
Fajui,
yes. Well, he was killed in no time at all and replaced with Adebayo.
Adebayo, yes.
Yes, who was a fine gentleman, and we had no difficulties. I'm trying to compare now at that level, because that's where things trickle down from.
Exactly.
You had a governor who wasn't interfering at all with the running of the station. In fact, I'll make it a little joke or issue.
Yes.
He came to do a broadcast once.
Okay.
Beforehand, he had asked for all the questions I was going to ask him.
Yes.
And obviously, between him and the civil servants, they rehearsed the answers. So Yomami was sounding very sharp, and then our bright interviewer, Kunle Adeleke,
yes,
did a follow-up question on what he had just answered, and the man was obviously flustered. So he turned around. His officials were around the street.
Yes.
He said, "What number is it?"
Oh.
After that, he just went away.
Oh,
Yes.
nothing was done to the gentleman who flustered him?
No.
Wow. Yeah. And some people
would have taken offense and made trouble. All right, now this was within this region.
Yes.
I then moved to federal.
Yeah, okay.
In the procedure of getting the job as DG in federal, which I had opposed the takeover of regional TV stations by the federal government. So I was surprised that I was even being considered for the job of DG.
And pioneer at that.
Pioneer DG. I mean, it was a list of my ambitions.
Probably somebody thought, okay, you are opposed to it, come and do it.
There was somebody else they had in mind.
Okay.
At the federal level.
Okay.
Who then turned it down and said, look, I know this chap, give it to him. And because they respected his opinion, they didn't know me, they gave it to me.
Oh, wow.
And within a year, they were beginning to ask whether it was the right decision they took.
Why would you say that, sir?
Because in the West, where I came from, apart from the governor, the military premier and all that, once the military, the civilian premier, once the military came in, remarkably, they didn't care about appearing on TV. Remarkably. But at federal level, they seemed to.
Yes.
And I was not used to
that.
No. And so I got in trouble.
Oh, no. Maybe we'll talk about that trouble soon. Now, you know, the leadership in the public service under the military and the civilians, how would you describe it?
Well, for me, we got on better as broadcasters with military than with civilians.
Really?
Yes, yes, yes. The military, we are not so worried about their own persons. At the time I went over to a federal job, military, it was after the Civil War. Well, during and after the Civil War.
Okay.
I mean, I went to NTA in 77.
Okay.
And the military war, the civilian, the Civil War had ended the whole 7 years.
Yes.
All right. The military had been in government since 66.
66,
yes.
67, yes.
So they were completely, I mean, it was as if we never have anything but a military system by the time I got to the federal.
Exactly.
Yes. And they were very sensitive about broadcasts and what you said and how you said it, which I didn't have at all as a problem in WNTV.
Okay. In those days that government used to change at...
No, that was civilian.
No, broadcasting house.
Yes.
Like whenever there was a coup.
Yes. Government changed.
Yes.
But I really never... There was, all right, 65.
Yes.
Was it 65?
That was the change.
When...
in 65, I was just 3 years old.
75. 75.
Yes.
When there was a change, Muritala became...
That was 76.
When was he killed?
No, 76 it was killed. 75 it was.
75.
It was 75, yes. When Gowon went to Addis Ababa and all that,
Yes. And the federal government was a bit nervy, I think.
Yes.
A new governor was sent to the West.
Yes.
And he started a purge system.
Yeah.
Because even at federal level, there was a purge of civil servants. And